Okay, here we are with the part two of the symbolism, and I left off at the number 45. And it's interesting with the number 45 too, because this is a very important number when you, especially when you're dealing with 45 degrees. 45-degree angles is the number of the fighter's stance. It's also the number dealing with fighting strategy, not attacking head on, attacking from the blind side, attacking from where they can attack you, okay, or whoever they are. All right. Now, still with some more things. Like I mentioned before, this is the reformation of the old Republican Guard, which would be the new Republican Guard. And focusing back on Rogers again, Rogers is also a symbol that deals with some very prominent TV heroes and or superheroes. That name Rogers also links to Buck Rogers, which is so-called the Christ safe or Christ or Savior figure in the future, and also with that of Captain America, the recipient of a serum that was handed down in a so-called super soldier program that gave this particular individual near superhuman, super physical, super mental powers. So Rogers is a symbol that represents the reformation of this guard and the so-called soldier, whether physically, mentally, and or spiritually, soldier program that will enforce it. Okay, which is starting now with this Going Green initiative. You know, putting more ethanol in the fuel, so-called making sure that all businesses are cutting down their usage or whatever with the carbon imprint or the and all that crap. And really it's just based upon, look, okay, if you want to keep producing and you don't change your stuff, you got to pay the government or pay the initiative more money. All right. Now let me go into some of the symbolism of the Steelers. That way I can round up with the other things that I wish to issue forth here. All right. Steelers. When you look up the etymology of the word steel, either steel, that's the STTLER, LE, or the one without the E, and as well as Steeler. When you look up the etymology, it's going to take you to steel, which comes from stella. Stella is symbolic of anything that comes from the stellar realm, something like a meteor that lands on the earth and someone refines it and uses it as a metal, like steel. Okay, and I found that very interesting when I looked that up, because we're talking about something that so-called has an origin in the stars or beyond the stars, and that's very symbolic too, because if you look at the size of the Pittsburgh Steelers helmet, they have 3 stars, a yellow one, a blue one, and a red one, which is also very symbolic of the Sirius star system, which is the trinary system that we're revolving around, or that this particular this particular solar system and other solar systems are revolving around. So not only do we revolve around the sun, that we do the sun or the soul, this particular solar system also has a central point that it revolves around. Okay, all right. The Steeler energy represents that which is backed by resources, natural resources, which will be metals, which will be gold, silver, anything of that sort. And this is why the Super Bowl where the Steelers beat the Cardinals was symbolic, because it was symbolic of the old or the ancient toppling or battling the cardinal Catholic energy, and buying more time for those who affiliate with the natural sources, natural so-called time, so to speak, which is really no time, because time as we know it is an illusion. Okay. So recently there was a brother, a man, who was representative of the Republican Party. His name was Michael Steele. Michael Steele. Mikael, or Michael, who was fired and replaced by this other cat. I didn't write the name down. I mean, because his name is not, well, I'm not going to say it's significant. However, I'll keep going from here. The guy who got fired, which was Michael Steele, was replaced by this new guy who comes out of Wisconsin. Whereas Green Bay, Wisconsin. Okay. There was a book, or some books and some other information that was put out some years ago. One was called The Iceman's Inheritance, and another, and they all dealt with symbology as well as facts that dealt with the so-called leaders of this world construct now, coming from the north or coming from the ice, dealing with the European, the Yaku theory and all of that stuff. Those of you who are more conscious of that, I don't have to go into that here. Okay, so for those who don't know, just a quick snippet. A long time ago, in some ancient times, there were a group of different priests and priestesses that broke off and created another life form that was known as the Tamahu, or Tamhu, or Tamahu. And these experiments were conducted in the Caucasus Mountains, and when these beings were created, they were eventually sent to what now we know as Europe. They were outcasted. Some were outcasted, or some were outcasted, and others were left behind to be reformed or refined. And the concept of what we call servitude or slavery was used, in so many words, to get the minds right, so to speak. So you can find plenty of information of that on here as well as all over the internet. Okay, so looking at this so-called African American who was fired as the representative of the Republican Party, whatever title, the exact title he has, and was misplaced or replaced by another cat who comes out of Wisconsin, which is the center, or I guess you could say land or mother, that Green Bay comes out of. Okay, bay. The word bay can be storage, a place where something is being prepared to be moved. All right. So, with those snippets being said here, if we go by experience, playability, overall, I guess you could say football prowess, the Steelers are supposed to win this thing, and they may still win it. My purpose here is to give some symbolism of what this all means, okay, or the symbol. However, if Green Bay wins this, don't be surprised, especially dealing with the symbolism that I've brought forth, and I'm sure there are some other individuals out there bringing forth very similar points that I may not have, that I haven't covered, or that I haven't expounded on. Okay, so this is basically, in so many words, a battle of those who represent or who are from the old ways, which is money and wealth being backed by gold and silver, being backed by sound commodities, versus those who wish to take a so-called initiative in the name of saving the planet from global warming and all of these different things, using this as a way to manipulate and draw in more wealth and money, okay, monetary resources and things of that sort. Now, I'm sure when it comes to all of this, a lot of people blame Obama. I'll go into more of that in the next post.